evening to all of you. My name is Sri, and I'm part of the technology risk team at EY. Been in the UK since 2015, and I've been an auditor all my life, but an IT auditor from 2004 onwards. So roughly around a couple of decades of experience on the technology front. But even my wife sometimes curses me that I'm such an auditor because she has drawn a red line, a thick red line at the door of the kitchen saying your auditing stops there. You can't get into the kitchen and do auditing. But auditing is my passion, and she also sometimes advises me saying you get paid to find fault. Well, that's the nature of the business. Um, with regard to AI specifically, it has been of recent origin. We are slowly getting opportunities to lift the hood and take it the relevant risks. And I should say that by no means are we experts in any shape or form. We're all learning as we go along because this damn technology is not static. It keeps evolving every day. And even in its life cycle, it keeps moving, as you all know by now. And that's exactly where the heightened risk also is. Now, we go to what we would cover.
Let's sit in the front. Let's sit in the front.
So in terms of what we would cover today, with regard to just one element of the building blocks that enables AI to function, which is risks around data. That's all we are going to cover. Now, you can easily imagine that in addition to data, we would have risks relating to the algorithm or the engine that drives the AI. Then you also have performance related risks because unlike traditional IT systems, once it goes live, unless there is a change in the program, you can be rest assured that whatever relevant risks have arisen have been taken care of on a relative scale. I'm saying, and you can't say that it is put of any technology for that matter, but AI is significantly different in that perspective. So we are not covering performance monitoring risks. That is other element that is involved here. And then, of course, the governance piece that we are not covering. So we are only razor focused on what we need to do with the data related risks. And therefore, whatever we will discuss in the rest of the session will be around data. Okay. And we'll first look into why should we worry about the data? I mean, what is it that with the data in the context of AI that we should consider? And for that matter, we need to be comfortable that we have a handle on the data landscape in the AI context. That's what we'll cover next. Then we'll look into the data lifecycle, the relevant aspects of the data lifecycle that we need to talk about. And then the nuances of data risks in AI. That also we'll cover in detail. And potential solutions, look forward to that. It is going to be a quiz session. Yeah. I'm just going to flash up because one of the requests from the organizers was, will we be sharing, risks and controls around data? You will be surprised to know that already there is such a treasure trove of information out there, which we are leveraging to make money, by the way, right? So what I would be doing in that session is, it's going to be a fun session and I want you to participate. I will show you the snippets of the guidance and you've got to tell me who issued that guidance. Game on? Yeah.
We're going to have a go at maintaining quality.
Pardon me?
Maintaining quality of data.
Yeah.
Well, because the data gets buggered one way, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So you got somebody has to maintain the quality of the data.
Correct. We'll be covering that.
Great.
Okay. All right. So with that, let's get into why should we worry about data in AI, right? And in that context, I would encourage you to first understand the footprints of data in the AI context, right? So we gather data from various sources. We need to curate that data, right? And that is where we pre-processed the data. So let me give you an example. Imagine that you are going to stand up an AI which is going to screen the CVs of candidates, right? and it is going to zero in on comparing the CVs of the candidate against the job description, right? And it will then filter out certain candidates as an absolute no and certain candidates as potential to be subjected to the recruitment process. Imagine that you have such an algorithm, such an AI in operation, right? Also, as you also imagine that the internal audit function of that organization has called out bias in recruitment. Okay? Imagine that. Like it has said that there is a acknowledged bias against female candidates, against people who are not native to this country, people who don't have an official graduation, people who have graduated from less known universities. Just imagine that. That is what come out from the internal audit report of that organization. Now, if the project team that is going to stand up that AI is not aware of these flows within the enterprise data, and if they were to connect the AI agent, the training model, to the HR database, what do you think will happen? Right?
Because you haven't put any criteria in.
No. So assume those connections have been made. The point I'm trying to make is you are using fundamentally flowed data which will be absorbed by the AI model to construe that
It's only flawed against the criteria.
No, true.
You have declared.
Let us imagine that I've declared the criteria that, so which is what I'm saying. So when I give an example, I can't square out all the assumptions I need to make. But the point I'm trying to make is if the biased data is used to train the model and letting the model understand that this is the be all and end all of HR data based on which the algorithm should function, then you are going to have the same bias being perpetuated, right? And that is where in the pre-processing stage, you need to clean and organize the data. And what could be the risk? People can also fix a proper data. I mean, they can gain a data which is actually okay, valid, but if they have a management override related risk they want to perpetuate, then they can also game the data. They can salt the data. They can pollute the data to suit their ends as well. So these are the risks that as control professionals we should bear in mind, right? Then the model training, and remember in the cybersecurity space, this space is becoming very important now because you can have hostile attacks coming in to poison the data, right? I don't know whether you remember the report in the press that talked about a customer of DPD. I hope no one who is working in DPD in this room, but it is public news. That's why I'm calling out that name, where the customer made that agent, that AI agent on the DPD website, declare that DPD is the worst logistics company in the world. That is again because they could carry out a prompt injection to influence the behavior of the AI agent, which was manning that site. So again, securing this data is also equally important. So think about those risks as well. And then the model evaluation. At the end of the day, good managements will always worry about how do I continue to ensure that the model is behaving or performing as appropriate. So that also you need to take care of here, right? And then when you deploy the model, that again will be working on actual production data, the actual transactional data that comes by the enterprise. So that also you need to worry about. And then models will always continue to learn and relearn and unlearn. And from that perspective, also data is equally important, right? The one line that really caught my attention was this particular thing, which is AI systems are trained on data and not on rules. And this is where the traditional software differs. Traditional software is a bunch of codes, and that is static. Of course, it can be subjected to change management. It can undergo program change from time to time. But for a particular time window, you can expect some sort of stability there. That's not the case with AI though.
Just a question. Do you want to take questions as we go?
Yeah, we can.
Fine. Okay. So fundamentally, working in a regulated environment, and most of us work in regulated environment, hiring people is a regulated environment.
Yeah.
Processes are required legally to be rules-based.
Yeah.
Which is a huge problem when you're dealing with AI. This is one of the biggest problems I see is, HR sends you on a training exercise to ensure you do not have a bias.
Yeah.
They do that so that if you exhibit a bias, they can
Over their backs.
They can discipline you, sack you, whatever it is. They have that recourse. When you have an AI system, you can test it to see if it appears to be biased. You can maybe adjust it so it doesn't appear to be biased, but you cannot tell it that gender, skin color, religion cannot be used in the criteria of the evaluation of the model, as far as I understand it. And that, I think, is the sort of, for me, that's the biggest limitation of throw the AI at the set of data and it does some stuff and it produces an output and you can't fathom the relationship, which is sort of power, but also weakness.
It's not 100% true. I'll tell you our use cases, okay? Now, we started using MS Pilot for testing controls, okay? This damn thing, if it can't look into the evidence and pick up the attributes that we care for, started making up.
You can set temperature, can't you?
Like approval dates and test dates. So we then placed a guardrail saying that do not infer, do not assume, do not hallucinate. If you are not sure about the evidence, leave a blank placeholder. It started doing that.
Yeah, and you see, and most places are temperatures, and you could just set temperature to 0, and it'll say no hallucinations, but it also won't make the leaps.
I agree, but then see, look, at the end of the day, you always will have a balance between what do I gain by deploying this agent? In my example, we test samples and samples of controls, right? If I can get out of my sample of 25, 15 tested properly or 20 tested properly, and the speed is amazing, okay? Like the speed at which it spits out the control result is under a minute. Looking into the evidence file and just populating a template and giving you the output. I agree there could be outliers where it is not able to make a sense of a particular screenshot and then it just leaves it aside. So for me, it is still a happy balance so long as the 15 successfully tested doesn't become 5 successfully tested and 20 given away.
I appreciate based on output, it's really good. The problem I've got is if you've trained your data and, shall we say, you have got no one from a Hispanic background that you've ever hired, however much you tune your data, for this case, how do you influence it? How do you ensure that it doesn't look at that characteristic, which is a protected legal characteristic, and you're not allowed to use that?
Correct.
And it varies by country you're in.
So one of the critical fallback controls in the AI context is performance monitoring. And the performance monitoring is always backed up by human in the loop. Okay. Now, my reaction to that would be, I know of organizations which really keep an eye on the performance of the model on a day-to-day basis. Even they have devised another architecture where they will place 2 models in production, actually, a primary model and a challenger model, as they call it. Okay, and these 2 damn things will keep working. And the moment the set of parameters, the challenger model is able to achieve better than the primary model, the challenger model will assume the identity of the primary model. Okay, and these dashboards are monitored by data scientists depending on the criticality of that model and the risks that apply almost on a real-time basis. Then you might ask the question, where is the benefit here, right? The benefit is the extraordinary speed at which it can process millions of transactions. But at the same time, they always, at the end of the day, the buck stops with a human. Okay. because you can't take AI to jail. You can't, I mean, obviously, right? So it has to be a human. So therefore, if all that I would encourage is, look, it is just like talking about a knife. You can use it to kill somebody or cut fruits. You have got to, we are still in the early pilot stages. This will mature out in due course. Until such time, you may have to ramp up the, natural intelligence aspects like ourselves, and then move on, is what I would say.
Can I ask you a question about Frank? You said, what happens if you manipulate the data in order to achieve your outcomes?
Me.
Yeah.
I didn't use that.
Well, you did.
No, he was saying you could manipulate it. That was one of the.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Sure, he'll come on to it later.
Good evening, everyone.
Say, can I suggest that you continue and we take question answer at the end?
Yeah,
We can.
that's what we normally do.
Sure. So, what should we care about data in AI, right? So let's take a look at it. I would say that, in the context of AI, there are three subsets of data, and these can be different, right? Your training data can be different from the live production application data and the output data, right? So you've got to understand the avatars of data in the AI context so that you can then start thinking, what are the different shades of risk that apply to each of those categories of data? That is what this page tries to communicate to you, right? And these are, however, in respect of these data, these are the perspectives to consider. I found this to be very, I don't know why the top one is cut. Okay,
It's just the if you click on the OK button, it will.
yeah, it has come to that, or it needs to come here, is it? Okay. Yeah. All right. So the timing, right? Because the timing also will determine when actually you will be applying the controls, right? So the training data, you can.
Thinks a full-time job.
It's fine. That's fine. So the training data is collected and prepared for model development. So that is where you should consider thinking about this. Application data is used in the model post it has been deployed. And the output data from the model is, so you've got to have your performance monitoring acting very much on the output data, the timing of the output data. The governance focus is high and it determines the long-term journey of the model. So therefore, you may want to think about the quality of the longevity and the rigor that you would apply, because at the end of the day, the way the model will work for times to come is dependent on the quality of the training data. Application data is seen as an applicable to the use case of the application. Because, you need not try to incrementally add too much of controls to specific controls from a context of AI use case. And for the output data, it is high and needs to meet the responsible AI expectations of explainability, transparency, and auditability. And again, this is influenced by your use case at the end of the day, right? I mean, to your point, if it is a highly regulated business, then of course the bar goes high. The income difference, it is severe as of now. You might, start seeing less and less of, anxiety as the technology matures. But right now, the training data, the impact of error will be severe as it will stick across the life cycle. Application data, it determines the direction of the model drift, because remember, you might have started with model version 1.0, but because of the intake of more relevant data from time to time, the model will start drifting. And you need to have specific controls to ensure that the model drift is in keeping with the expectations of the business as well, right? And then the output will also be severe as it has a direct impact on the consumers of that data. And the risk exposure is high for training data because it will perpetuate poor performance. The application data, if it mismatches with the training data, can result in deviant performance. So this is where I'm saying that you should keep an eye on the performance data of performance monitoring from time to time. And for output data, it will be high. I think the utility of the data, right? So the reason why I thought that this view is important is it helps you in thinking in a logical fashion, depending on the nature of the data, what are the controls and the risks that you need to consider, right? All right, so when should we care about the data in AI? So this is the timing bit, right? Again, the data lifecycle. You acquire the data, you prepare it, you then integrate it. This is very important. I don't know what your experiences have been. I should share with you that we would have seen at AI play in at least 5 big organizations. None of the organizations have had the confidence to connect their AI models to live production applications. They always mirror the data in a data lake, and that is often in the cloud, but they have not had the confidence to connect models to live applications. But and this is more in terms of testing and developing and standing it up. Of course, after it has been tested, you now have even software as a service applications having add-ons or bolt-ons from an AI model perspective. And then the storage, this is very important from ensuring that your data is not poisoned or is not polluted by hostile actors. The analysis, the rules or the use cases that you try out on your AI model. That's what the analysis bit talks about. Archiving could be important for regulated industries where you may have to, in case you get a complaint later on that some bias has played out, you may have to then prove that no, your model has been fit for purpose and it is not because of the functioning of the model that the perceived bias has played out. So from that perspective, archiving is important. So this just gives you an idea on when you should be thinking about risks. So from a high level, it is present throughout the cycle, but the nature and the type of controls and the risk that you need to consider would vary across the life cycle. Right. Now we'll see what risks should we consider for data in AI. Right. Now this is again, I would not say that this is a complete list, but definitely it is most of the list. And as I said before, it depends on the nature, on the maturity and the sophistication of the technology that you are using, right? Privacy and confidentiality risk, if you are using personal data for training a model, that is definitely applicable, right? Closely sort of related to that is the IP risk. And this is a hot topic. Lawyers are really engaged on this one. And I would also say that, my sympathies are with the, I would not say Hollywood artists, but the little known artists whose, skills are being industrialized because of the use of AI. Bias and fairness risk, very important again, especially it can destroy your reputation with your customer stakeholders if something were to play out. Legal compliance risk, there is such a litany of regulations that is sprouting all across the globe that, this is something that is really becoming frontline and something to be thought about before you deploy your models. Data quality and integrity risk, the lifeblood of an AI model. You need to ensure that you take care of that. And then the information security risk. I mean, these guys are never far away, right? Any technology that you deploy, you will always have somebody who's interested from the dark web. So from that perspective also, you should take care of this. Now, the impact of all these risks is that this can result in lack of clarity on data ownership. And this is one of the biggest risks. The most, I would say, approximate and real-time risk that we have seen across our reviews. I mean, there is absolutely no ownership on the data that is used to train the model because the business data owner will say, I don't know what you've done with the data for training the model. I will not take responsibility and I cannot be held accountable. Rightfully so, if you don't have guardrails in place that guides the I would not say messaging of the data, but the preparation or the curation of the data for the purpose of the AI model. Doubts on data accuracy, and that leads to a lack of appetite to assume responsibility. Model proliferation. If you see the ease with which you can design an agent, it is infectious. It is just like looking at your mobile phone, right? You can't put it away. If you start getting the hang of standing up an agent, well, you just have a word with your near and dear ones, asking them to just stop you from hitting on morphing it because it keeps on. It can really become very contagious. AI complexity, it can impact transparency and explainability, especially if you have data quality and integrity risk. And one of the risks that should have been here, I think, is the program, the change management risk, because that's also is not really formed right now because doing change management once itself is tiring. And if you have to be on it, on almost a real-time basis, it's very difficult to sustain interest, right? So that's something that you should bear in mind. Data governance complexity because of the proliferation of data versions across the enterprise and the difficulty of establishing ownership, data governance will definitely get affected. And all this can result in lack of scalability and interoperability. Meaning, you might have a wonderful model, but by encouraging another division to adopt the base outline of that model, it becomes a turf war, an in and out turf war, right? So that's something that you may want to think about, right? The unique characteristics of data in AI. This we also sort of I thought will be valuable in understanding what is it that is so special about AI data, right? So traditional data, primary purpose, as you can easily assume, it is business operation reporting. AI data is used to train and drive AI models. Data types, very important. And that's the biggest difference between traditional data and AI data, right? AI data is living and breathing unstructured information, which is why it is so feature rich. It is so productive in terms of adding value in its use. Compliance drivers for traditional data, it could be privacy and security, but for AI data, you have the added feature of bias and explainability, and that is coming into being because of the what nature of AI? Generative nature of AI, right? Because it is able to produce additional organic information that you have got to worry about bias and explainability, right? The impact of errors, traditional data, generally it is localized, but this is systemic because your errors get replicated on an industrial scale. The inherent nature is, it is historical nature, whereas this is more predictive and generative, and it is not historical, and like it is much different from what it used to be, right? And the focus is low risk exposure from a risk standpoint. This is high and scalable risk exposure. So this is not only high, it's also that risk is also scalable. That's the bad news, right? Because if you get one area wrong, it just multiplies and almost on a geometry progression, right? All right. What are the potential solutions? And here is where the quiz starts. Okay. So, where do you think this is from? This has been around for quite some time, guys, honestly. No, I mean, I just wanted to add some mischief here. That's all. So, where do you think this has come from? So this is the NIST AI risk management framework. Okay, as you can see here, they are talking of data and input there, right? TEVV is testing, evaluation, validation, and verification. That's what they say. But what it clearly calls out is these are the different hope points as you're trying to stand up a model from a risk standpoint. You've got to think about the application context because context is everything in AI, right? And then how do you bring in the data and the input? And then how does that influence the AI model? And they are explicitly calling out segregation between these two activities. And then the task and output for performance monitoring, the application context, and people and planet, right? So that's from the NIST risk management framework. Okay. So if you look into the appendix of this risk management framework, you will get further deep dives into what you need to consider from a data standpoint. Okay. So you can leverage this framework, right? There is an ISO standard 5259, which talks about AI and ML data quality. So explicitly on that, I understand that this is not certifiable, but it is just guidance. Okay? And it talks about the basics of accuracy, completeness, consistency, representativeness, relevance, traceability, understandability, effectiveness, identifiability, and diversity. Nothing much, but you will see all these elements in the other examples that I'm going to showcase. Right? Where is this from?
My hands clean.
This also has been around for quite some time, and there are a lot of hints on screen as well. So you should be embarrassed if you can't tell me who gave this guidance. Come on, guys, be brave. Guess. Just guess. Yeah. Look at the banner of the Excel spreadsheet. Even that is a clue.
Okay.
Let it out for you. AI and data protection risk. Yeah. Daniel's case is slowly coming nearer. It has to be related to GDPR, but who gave this guidance? Bianca, no, not ISO, Daniel. It is only the yes that is wrong there. It is around dear ICO, by the way. Yeah, ICO has given a the Information Commissioner in the UK. They're really way ahead in terms of publishing proactive guidance. I should say that. And it is so meaningful. If you see this, I've filtered it for data acquisition, the data related aspects. If you look into this, it has something like 64 rows. I mean, like it is so rich in terms of, it is the ICO people on the phone, Tracy. So, yeah. All right. So again, rich guidance, never ever think that you are short of guidance. They talk about a lot of controls to deal with the risks that we talked about. Okay. Where is this coming from?
Who is in the banner?
But let's see.
Can't see it.
I can read it out for you. Auditing guidelines of AICM version 1 based on CCM version 4.0.1.3. Who do you think that is?
CSA.
Yeah, that's the Cloud Security Alliance, right? It came out probably a couple of months back, but very rich. The one problem with the CSA guidance, though, I don't know if there are volunteers in this room, is that, they give you indigestion. They give you so much that you don't know where to start and where to select. But, I don't think anyone should complain about having too much to choose from. But regardless, you need to be razor focused. Otherwise, if you are going to consume this lock, stock, and barrel, that's it. You are guaranteed to have indigestion. No organization can implement those.
What you're saying is that the great thing about standards is there's so many to choose from.
So many to choose from. And again, they come from their own perspectives, right? So imagine that I'm looking at an AI model because I'm really concerned about data protection. Who will I go with? I will go with ICO, right? If I'm approaching it more from an information security standpoint, I might prefer the NIST. Or if the NCSC, if at all it is going to come out with the guidance, I would go for that, right? If my AI models are all stood up on the cloud, who would I go with? I'll definitely give primacy to the Cloud Security Alliance guidance, because it is all grounded on all matters cloud.
Is that what a standard is?
Pardon me?
We know when we're building computers, we want one standard.
That is, see, the world is a bit complicated than that, right? I mean, like my point is, if you only had one village in the world, one city in the world, it's still okay. But then,
But we have several standards, even when we have computers. We have different standard for operating system, different standard for client endpoint security.
Yeah, and even if you have one standard, you have so much vagary in there because everyone wants to extend the standards to add value. So, it's a baseline.
At the end of the day, so long as it doesn't have the force of law and you have the latitude and the headroom to adopt a risk-based approach, then I think we should be welcoming different perspectives, because who knows what blind spot we have. If you are going to stick to one particular standard, is the way that I would look at things. Probably because I'm a consultant, but regardless, but
that you can see and observe that AICM is quite extensive, but you can apply only depending on the role you are playing in the AI life cycle as well.
That's right. So which is why I was deliberate about capturing this snapshot also. Just on the area of data, in the context of the AI model, look at the various things that they thought about, right? How do you classify the data? How do you take care of data differentiation and relevance? Because that can impact bias, it can impact, fairness. Data flow documentation. Do you have data flow documentation more from a housekeeping perspective? Data integrity check. How do you ensure that the data that the model uses continues to be accurate, right? Data inventory. I mean, where and all do you keep your inventory? I mean, are you exposing data to a disproportionate risk by being a bit loose? I don't know whether, like traditionally, we always thought a development environment was risk-free, right? I mean, it's not capable of being audited, right? Development environment. Well, you would have seen the recent impact of what a breach on the development environment has resulted in, is it not? From the ICO's penalty in December right? So what I'm trying to say is, gone are the days when we can take an automatic assumption that if things are in development, forget about it, we can be relaxed. No, it depends on what you store in the development environment as well. Data location, important from a legal compliance standpoint, because most of the organizations are coming in for data localization, right? Data ownership and stewardship, important to drive accountability. Otherwise, you can't get anywhere. Data poisoning from a cybersecurity standpoint, because that can influence the way the model behaves, performs, and provides output. Data protection by design and default to take care of the DPIA aspects. That's the next one. But this is, sort of related to that. So what I'm trying to tell you is, if you are having a particular mandate of giving clearance to management for coverage of certain risks for the use case of AI, leverage this accordingly. Then you can, get to the art of the possible in terms of managing controls. Otherwise, controls are costly and it is inefficient. And especially this crowd of developers, they hate controls, unfortunately. But, you've got to have controls. Otherwise, you can never fulfill your mandate, right? All right. So I also wanted to share some generic data frameworks that you have to deal with risk, right? So the DCAM framework, which it was last revised in 2014, but it is good. I mean, it is good at a very, I would say it's around 10,000 feet level, but it is good. ISO 27001, more from an information security standpoint. The DAMA, DM body of knowledge, that again came out in, I think it was second. So it was in 2009 that it came out, but it's also a good resource. The ISO 5259, we showed that earlier on with this detail. The ISO 23894 is what has been used. It's again a voluntary guidance, not a certifiable standard. And the NIST AI RMF is the one that is there on the last page of the deck. Okay. Now, this is something that we are currently operating out of. Okay. And what you are seeing on page is a sort of a maturity assessment framework across the various aspects that you can think about. So if you ask me, what is the solution that we have to deal with data risks? You've got to get a handle on, is the AI data strategy and innovation linked with management's business strategy? Otherwise, you are burning up money for no reason. Okay. You have got to be able to explain, if I'm going to stand up this AI model, what is going to be the cost? And this is something that, people are not paying attention to. Like, there is no business case validation, there is no ROI measurement, nothing. So that's something that you should definitely be challenging. Then the tactical areas of AI data management, the IT infrastructure that supports the data quality on an ongoing basis throughout the life cycle. This is, you start talking about accountability and ownership, which then gives the springboard to you to establish governance over the data. Right. So that's the framework. So and we sort of, this is the usual CMM standard value, go from 0 to 5 and all that stuff. But right now it's all driven by interviews. What is the value of having an interview? Anybody's guess. We do ask for evidences. You ask evidences for model testing. People scream at you. But then they also ask a funny question as to what day do you want? I don't know. I mean, like what I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, nothing works like a regulation, is it not? And from what I'm seeing with our friend in the White House, who is, on an industrial scale dumping whatever regulation is out there, unfortunately, it is not the season for risk and controls. But if you want to be taught by the power of experience, which unfortunately gives a lesson after the lesson has been taught, well, that's where the world is going. But then I would always evangelize proactive adoption of controls to manage risk in a predictable fashion. Okay. With that, I like this one. Okay. And this again was given by MS Copilot, by the way. It's not my creation. We were used to hearing garbage in, garbage out, but if you don't take care of data, when you stand up an AI model, you're going to have garbage in, but giggles out, right? People are going to laugh at you, right? So please be careful on that. But yeah, happy to answer any questions.
I think there's another couple of sort of issues which are specific to more LLMs rather than AI, but they're sort of used interchangeably. One is that if you write a normal application, you can predictively work out what the answer is. You do not get, the answer is yes 80% of the time and no 20% of the time. If you're trying to even recover the data and say, I rerun this model in exactly the same situation, I can get a different answer just because power is indeterminism, but also risk is. So that means that we're not dealing with something that's a yes/no answer. We're dealing with something that's a indeterminate shades of grey, coming up with an answer out of that, and that ends up driving our audits and controls in a particular way. It ends up, if you recovered your entire system and then you said, okay, we didn't give that person a bank account, we rerun the system now on exactly the same data, and we would give a bank account. Well, you can't even justify to dig in why you got that answer, because if I run the question 5 times, I'll get 10 different answers back. True. So you don't get that with traditional software. And I think that's an inherent risk in what we're doing, because the explainability, it isn't explainability, but explainability is different every time you run the model. And the second thing is maybe related to that, which is slightly related to your poisoning. When you run a normal application, you know the state of the data.
Yeah.
It comes from curated sources and so on. But in an AI model, your vector store is constantly mutating as it learns more about the conversation. And the data that lives in the vector store is pretty much unauditable. And you don't know your data risk. You don't know if it's actually pulled some information in there, which again is, things it shouldn't have, and that influences the decision later on. It's, like you're asking a smart 12-year-old for an answer, and then asking them why they think that. And that's sort of, I think, where AI is at the moment. It's a smart 12-year-old. They've learnt lots. If they don't know it, they'll guess. And sometimes they come up with a brilliant answer. Sometimes they don't, but they do it a lot faster than a 12-year-old does.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of situation, herding goldfish,
I agree. And come to think of it, I even sometimes the younger friends in the audience, please forgive me. I have 3 young daughters, and sometimes I get annoyed with their addiction to the phone, which made me recall the goldfish thing that you talked about, right? The problem is that we guys with more gray hair in our heads, or rather no hair in our heads, like myself as well, we were used to a world where there is a lot of finiteness in the work that we did. There is a control, there is an expected output, unless you fail. But I think with AI, we are moving to a world of, if the output is within this range, I'm fine. You're okay. What defines that range? The risk appetite of the organization is how I would put it. You're absolutely right. I mean, let me give you another example from a financial statement audit world. In the financial statement audit world, when we test automated controls, I'm sure that those of you who have had the experience of doing that, we will be testing that automated control only once in a year, right? Those days are gone. Those days are gone. If you have AI-enabled business processes which oversee an automated control that is relevant for the financial statement audit, I may have to audit it, say, on a monthly basis. And we were selling the line to our auditees that if you have IT general controls, if they're effective, I will only bother you once, but that's gone. Right. And so therefore, we are going to live in a world which is so dynamic that, we'll have to probably revisit our brain wires to think, how do we provide assurance, right? But it's the new reality. I agree.
Any other questions?
It sort of reminds me of, I tended to talk years ago about weather forecasting.
Yeah.
And in weather forecasting, you don't run one forecast based on all data you've got.
Yeah.
You take all the data points you've got and you randomize them slightly, and you run 1 million permutations of the temperature, pressure, humidity all being off by something, and then you see how stable the model is. It sort of seems to me like that's the sort of thing you've got to do is look at the stability of the model, because you might be right on the edge of a cliff and it's working fine, but you could fall off the cliff so easily.
Yeah.
You need to find out where the cliff edges are.
Yeah.
And if you're blind, and we sort of are, the only way you find out the cliff edges is by walking over it and then,
Going over it.
exactly. Yeah, not quite that analogy, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think just like maybe train the model with, a million versions of the same data all field around and then see how stable they are or something like that. I don't really know.
So I don't know whether you are seeing this as well. I mean, this is one fear that I'm so happy that I'm relatively at the end of my career. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. So when I grew up as an auditor, any engagement model would be a pyramid, right? You have a lot of young people doing the hard work, cranking the numbers, and bubbling up what needs to be considered or relevant for the audit. And you then have the wise men at the top of the pyramid, looking into it and then taking calls, right? Now, what is happening is the pyramid has been inverted, right? Though it doesn't retain the same dimensions, it has become much more narrow. But what I'm trying to say is, you have a lot more people poring over what the AI has come up with, but you have just a couple of models at the board doing all the hard work, churning it up, right? So what I'm trying to say is the human in the loop has slowly started becoming fat and fat at the top, while the efficiency, and to a certain extent on a personal level, I would attribute it to corporate greed, where they just want to keep slashing workforce and economizing through AI, which I'm told.
I may remind you that this session is recorded.
So which is why, if you see, I just put my personal name as a presenter, not EY at all. But regardless, but the point I'm trying to make is, all timers tell me the same thing was told when the typewriters came in. I don't know whether you are aware that there were a category of professional writers who said that, oh my God, my jobs are gone because of this typewriter. And when the computers came, the typewriters lost their job. And similarly, when AI has come, we old-timer manual workers are feeling this. And that could be, the start of a new skill which will gainfully employ us. But I'm just trying to give you both sides of the divide. But I think we are in very early stages to be really knowing, this is how the shape of the things is going to be.
There's one question online. Is there an agentic AI ISO security standard in addition to any data quality standards you mentioned?
ISO 42001 is a bit vague. With regard to agentic AI, I know that the European Data Protection Supervisor has come out with an excellent guidance on agentic AI, including KPIs. I was surprised. I mean, and those KPIs, I think I need to go to Oxford or Cambridge to learn mathematics to understand the KPIs. I can't understand, honestly. But do take a look at it. The EDPS has come out with a fantastic guidance. But outside of that, I'm not very sure.
There's another question online by Ian. Is a main risk of using agentic AI that we don't always understand how agentic AI agents make decisions?
So agentic AI, right? So the type of agentic AIs that I have come across, and I don't claim that I have had 100% awareness of the various flavors that are out there. So you might have heard about the concept of RAG, right? In agentic AI, which is retrieval augmented generation, right? What happens there now? For example, in our organization, we use Copilot. Copilot rides on OpenAI, right? Now, if I, as an individual, were to subscribe to Copilot, I will only get that flavor, the flavor of AI Copilot operating on the top of the OpenAI large language model, right? But my organization has sort of developed a offline version of the Copilot, where it is ring fenced, because we deal with clients' data. We can't afford to expose our clients' data to the LLM of OpenAI. So therefore, we have ring fenced it. And therefore, when I'm very certain that when I run a test, a control test using an agent in EY's Enterprise Copilot, the results will be much more quality rich and truer than one that I would have used using a generic Copilot agent, right? Now, so to the point about the question was about the agentic AI.
I wanted to touch.
Yeah, sorry. So
I
think the question was, is the complex is
the main risk?
Don't understand the agent.
This is
exactly. So in respect of the flavor that we are using, it gives you a log of how it came to that decision. We have enabled that. And again, having said that, I should say that some of the outputs are still doesn't make sense, which again shows that the model is still evolving, right? So I would say that, the biggest problem is, unless you have the performance monitoring switched on along with human in the loop, you are running a risk. And you should not be exposing the
just to add, there are, big providers of AI tools like Gemini. Are progressing well. They are thinking ahead.
Yes.
They also have SAFE. Gemini or Google has a SAFE SAIF framework for explainability and addressing bias. So it's very good framework for responsible AI if you want to look at it. But what I want to add is that they are also technologically advancing, providing you features so that you can, like you mentioned, just the temperature. But soon they will be provided logging. ChatGPT already provides logging. If you want, it explains to you how you can actually extract how model has reached a decision. Obviously, if you are paid, you subscribe to paid version. I think we probably should move to the food hall now. To just
a little thing about
is it a question or observation?
It's an observation. It's actually fed back from a AI conference with Google that we had internally, which is one of the problems I think of agentic AIs is the agents can manipulate the vector store. That's the way that you add two agents together and you get more than the sum of the parts. And that's actually the promise of agentic AI. The problem is that it's a dumping ground in the middle. And that's the comment I had about the vector store being manipulated and not be able to understand what's in the vector store. It's exponentially more complex with different agents being adding into there. The analogy I'd have is, would you want an agentic AI on your phone where every app on your phone was an agent that could access the vector store that you don't know what's in? You want Spotify knowing about your phone. And that's the thing, it's really hard controls to have. I spoke to Google about it. They went like, oh, we have a red team looking at that. Like, okay, that means you haven't a clue how to solve it, but you push it in the long grasp saying it's a problem.
Yeah,
and I think that's
to your point, I think it's not technical solution.
No,
it's basically a governance problem and governance issue.
Partially, yeah.
Yeah, if you have 100 agents, main thing is how do you set up the agent workflow. That's the key. Agent cannot just do things on their own. At least you can put some control at the moment. But let me ask a question from the audience. Had anybody heard of Surge AI?
I don't know what it means. Heard it somewhere.
Surge AI is the next generation of AI tools that will be coming out soon. Only few organizations in the world are offered that. So I will encourage you to read about Surge AI. So what Surge AI is doing is hiring PhDs and domain experts in every field to enrich the models they are building. And that's the next wave of AI that's going to come out. Please read about it. But let's bring this to the close. As a chair of BCS IRMA, I would like to thank you for coming here, attending the questions and asking the questions and also adding your perspective.